today to discuss the formulation of the North Carolina District. We'll give you just a little information about what transpired prior to this time. We had the first East Carolina District, or East Central District, I'm sorry, and then the Atlantic District, and then the Carolina District. All of these were preludes that led to the development of the North Carolina District and folks coming from all parts of the country. There were UPC pastors that were here in the 50s. Brother Pounder out of Louisiana pastored in Wilson in the 50s for just a short period. And I knew a couple of pastors from the Texaco district that were here. But it was just momentary. Actually, the first UPC pastor that built a church was Brother G.L. Pridgeon, who came and started in 1953. I'm David Hayes. This is Brother W.J. Daigle, our first district superintendent, who has done a fantastic job and has been so important in putting together the district from the very foundation. Now, the North Carolina District was actually formed in 1969, and so we're celebrating our 50th year this year. We appreciate Brother Daigle being here with us to share a lot of the information and his experience. And Brother Daigle pastored in Wilmington from, 1968?
1965.
65.
We came to Wilmington from Charleston, South Carolina, and the church in Wilmington had been there for a number of years, but was operating as an independent church run by its board, and we were voted in as pastor in 1965. From then on, we operated within the United Pentecostal Church, and our church board was pretty well dissolved as they moved to different parts of the country, and we were left just with the local church.
I have here in my hand several publications. One is the Youth Camp Memories of the East Central District, and some of the information of the evangelism that led to the Carolina District and the North Carolina District coming into being. So Brother G.L. Pridgeon played a large part in that, and his church began in 1953, which is long before the North Carolina District ever came to be, but he was determined that he was going to get as many pastors as he could to come here. So in our celebration of 1969, the North Carolina District, we want to remember all of those from the beginning, the 50th anniversary of this great district. We're remembering the highlights of those early years. Brother Daigle, do you remember some of the first pastors that came and was a part?
Very few individuals do I remember. We had a number of men from Texas and Louisiana and Illinois that came through and contributed their part to our growth, but they moved on. And when we became a district in 1969, I think there were only 9 churches in North Carolina. And I continued as superintendent for 10 years, and in that length of time, we went from 9 churches to 38 churches, and became quite organized and very active in soul reaching and building churches across the state.
So from 9 churches to 38 in 10 years was a tremendous leap forward.
We felt like it was, yes. I spent most of my time away from my home church, visiting other districts and Bible schools, recruiting men to come and start churches, and eventually surrendered pastorate of my church to Brother Pound, who did a tremendous job with it in the next few years as I spent my time reaching new people to come and start churches.
Thank you. Brother Daigle, there's a number of beautiful experiences that transpired from the very beginning. Our camp meetings and youth camps were quite simple and in some quite rural areas.
Quite.
But the Lord blessed, and our small churches began to increase. My family came here in 1962. We moved from the panhandle of Texas, and there were actually 3 churches in North Carolina, UPC churches, that were in operation. There was several other pastors that were here that were just barely getting started, and it took a little while for these brethren to get their feet on the ground and things to begin to develop. It's hard to look back now that it's been that long. I'm not quite as young as I once was, and our memory's not what it used to be, so we're just trying to put a few of the small pieces together. There were so many people that played a very strong and honorable part in this, and as we go forward, these names will be shared and their faces. I have in my hand here the Carolina Harvester, which was actually a publication of the Carolina District. When the Carolina District, which was North Carolina and South Carolina, was formed, Brother A.T. Morgan was here and helped set everything in perspective and get it started. And so there was the 2 states working together, and we shared everything up until 1969, when we broke away and formed 2 separate districts. Brother Morgan, whenever the Carolina District was born, he made the statement that a baby is born and her name is Caroline. And then as they grew, the North Carolina, South Carolina became 2 separate districts. And in that process, there was just a lot of healthy relationships and strong bonds that were created. South Carolina just recently celebrated their anniversary and have shared some of that with us. I have a Carolina Harvester here that gives us a little bit of information about the churches and the district itself. Our home missions report from the month of July and August and September of 1969, and some of the churches that were listed: Brother Wilmington, or Brother Pridgeon in Wilmington, Brother the church in Kinston, Havelock. Brother Daigle was in Wilson or Wilmington at the time. Jacksonville, Gastonia, Raleigh, Havelock, Winston-Salem, Fayetteville. So there was just a few of those that were listed in the beginning of our district. We appreciate each one of these brethren and what they have done to make it a successful endeavor.